Hi everyone, so we're going to see the carbon cycle in more details. So you've seen that the carbon cycle consists of four main processes, which is photosynthesis, respiration, combustion, and decomposition. So let's see each one of those. So photosynthesis is the main process in the carbon cycle. It's carried out by plants during the day, and it takes in carbon dioxide and gives out oxygen. So that's the word equation. So carbon dioxide plus water. This will occur in the presence of chlorophyll and sunlight to give glucose and oxygen. The glucose is used by the plant and is stored in the plant. For example, in the potato tree, it will be stored in the potatoes. It's also going to be used by the leaves, and during this process there's going to be oxygen that is going to be liberated. This oxygen will go into the atmosphere. So the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is going to be used by the plants during the day, and oxygen is going to be liberated into the atmosphere. Now, this oxygen is going to be used by all other organisms, including plants, because plants will also carry out respiration. So plants will absorb oxygen as well. Animals, humans, bacteria, any living organism will use oxygen from the atmosphere. So this oxygen will combine with glucose in the organism, and this is going to give carbon dioxide and water as well as energy. So then the organism is going to get energy to do its activities, whatever activities that it does. And this glucose, this comes from the food, or it comes from anything that the organism consumes, takes in, right? Now, respiration is going to produce carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and is going to absorb oxygen from the atmosphere. So this process, respiration, is going to use oxygen. Remember, photosynthesis is going to give out oxygen, and respiration is going to use oxygen. The third reaction is decomposition. Decomposition is the decay of living things. So once living things die, they start to decay, and decay is going to take place by bacteria like worm or other organisms that are decomposers, like worm, maggots, fungi. So all these are decomposers, and these fungi will also carry out respiration. So these decomposers will give out carbon dioxide, so they will release carbon dioxide because they carry out respiration. These bacteria, what they will do, they will feed on the remains of the dead organism. When they feed on it, they're going to obtain the nutrients that were stored in the dead organism, because the dead organism has tissues, has muscles. For example, if it's a dead cat, it has muscles, it has tissues. So then the bacteria will feed on the nutrients in that dead organism. And as it's feeding on that, what is happening is that all the carbon that were stored in that dead organism is going to be recycled in the ecosystem, which means that when other organisms will eat the bacteria, because the bacteria or the fungi or the maggots, the worm is going to be eaten by something else. Let's say a bird eats the worm. So whatever nutrients was in the worm is going to go into the bird, and the nutrients that is in the worm might be that is found in a dead cat. So nutrients from the dead cat go into the worm. The worm is going to give that nutrients to the bird when the bird feeds on the worm, right? So this is a way where carbon is recycled. So this gives an idea of what is happening during photosynthesis and respiration. So the plant carries out photosynthesis, gives out oxygen. The oxygen is used by the cat to make energy. So whatever energy is going to be useful is used by the cat, and whatever energy is in excess is going to be used to make nutrients that are going to be stored. And the molecules of the nutrients contain carbon. Now, if the cat dies, there's going to be maggots or other decomposers that feed on it. That is going to get the nutrients from the cat, carbon. Now, this carbon, if these maggots are eaten by the birds, this carbon is going to get into the birds. And the bird will carry out respiration and is going to give carbon dioxide into the air. So carbon dioxide contains carbon, the carbon goes back to plants. So you see, it's kind of a cycle that is happening. Plants allow organisms to use carbon to make nutrients, and eventually organisms are going to give away that carbon in the form of carbon dioxide in the air. So this is why we say that decomposition recycles carbon from dead things to other living things. So in the blue handwriting here, you can see the functions of decomposition in an ecosystem. Now the fourth reaction is combustion or burning. So there's burning of fossil fuels. So fossil fuels include petrol, methane, kerosene, diesel, heavy oil. All these are fossil fuels. And fossil fuels were made by when living things died millions of years ago, and due to high temperature and high pressure, they formed crude oil, that is what we know as fossil fuels. And fossil fuels, they contain hydrocarbons, so they contain carbon which were in the living things. And when we burn the fossil fuels, it's going to release carbon dioxide and water vapor in the air. So there can be complete combustion if it's going to release carbon dioxide, or if there is incomplete combustion, you can get carbon or carbon monoxide as well. In any way, it's releasing carbon into the atmosphere. But you can also have burning of other fuels like wood. So if you're cutting down trees, so the wood of the tree contain carbon, and this is again going to release carbon dioxide and water vapor in the air, or carbon or carbon monoxide into the air if there is incomplete combustion. So these are things that happen. So let's see how these four processes are related. So photosynthesis is the only process that absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. All the other processes are going to absorb oxygen and release carbon dioxide. So respiration releases carbon dioxide, combustion releases carbon dioxide, decomposition releases carbon dioxide. Now all these carbon dioxide need to be able to be absorbed during photosynthesis. So which means that you need to have enough plants on the planet, on the whole planet. You need to have enough plants to be able to absorb carbon dioxide from other processes to keep the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere constant. We don't want amount of carbon dioxide to be zero, but we need it to be fairly constant. So we need plants to be able to absorb enough carbon dioxide from these three processes, so that amount of carbon dioxide remains constant at 0.03%. So if human beings start cutting down too many trees, we will not have enough plants to carry out enough photosynthesis, which means that there's going to be a lot of carbon dioxide that will start accumulating in the atmosphere. Now, another thing is that during combustion, now we are like the burning of wood is okay, but if we keep on burning too many fossil fuels, so fossil fuels contain carbon that was trapped millions and millions of years ago. So if we keep on burning fossil fuels, keep on liberating that much amount of carbon into the atmosphere, there's going to be too much of carbon dioxide, too much of carbon in the atmosphere that photosynthesis is not going to be able to absorb, which means that if you release too much of carbon dioxide from fossil fuels, you will disrupt the cycle. But also, if you deforest too much, you're going to disrupt the cycle because there's going to be less plants. Or if you burn too much, there's going to be too much carbon dioxide that is going to be produced and not enough plants to absorb this carbon dioxide. So these are two reactions that human beings have impacts on that can disrupt the carbon cycle. Now, what does excess of carbon dioxide do? If you have too much of carbon dioxide, you're going to have too much of greenhouse effect, and you're going to have global warming and all the consequences of global warming. So you need to know all the consequences of global warming, and you need to know why is too much of greenhouse effect bad for the planet. So this is how the carbon cycle is related to our global issue, which is global warming.